Yes?
Why don't we see these type of techniques in everyday user interfaces on computers, such as the trash can being empty, or as I touch on the iPhone, a slightly different sound each time you press these things?
There's a couple of things there. The trash can being empty, I agree, would be a great one. The touch thing, there's a little bit of a problem there, is that UI interfaces, the sounds for UI interfaces are feedback. That's purely what they should do. They're just letting you know you've touched the pad. If it changes every time it's drawing your attention to it, that's not its job. Now, the rubbish bin being emptied one, you could argue that yes, it'd be a little bit more interesting. Is there an advantage in it being interesting? All it really is doing is giving you a cue. And this is one of the things, think about this. If you had a fire alarm in your building, wherever you work, if you had a fire alarm in your building that was random every time it went off, you'd be like, nah, that's not the fire alarm, I don't know what it is, something else. So there are certain sounds, that need to be no ambiguity whatsoever. If I say duck, if I scream duck at you, I'm hoping that you're going to put your head down before it gets torn off by whatever. I'm not going to quibble about, maybe I'll say something more interesting, that's witty or whatever. So there's certain things where if it's feedback, I don't believe it has a purpose in changing because there's no narrative involved. If we're talking about narrative, then yes, I agree with you. I think that there is possibly room for that. So the dustbin is one where you could do it as a sort of a fun thing because it's not critical. But if you're clicking on your mouse and every time it does a different tone, it's going to draw attention to it. It's just going to be annoying. Any other questions? Way up the back.
Is there ever a point where repetition is actually useful, like where you want the sound to repeat and you won't mix it up on purpose? Like is that something that could be used?
Yes, there is. Again, sort of relating to that, there can be certain sounds that you need to have that don't alter. Let's say, for instance, a boss monster fight. When you hit the boss monster's critical point, he squeals in a particular way. Perhaps that's giving you critical feedback again. It's kind of like, I've hit him where I've needed to. So when I shoot here, here, and here, he kind of grunts and groans or whatever, but when I hit him here, he does this particular squeal. If you sort of change that, it's like, did I hit him in the right place or not? So from that point of view, you could argue that having exactly the same sound effect, or at least something that's very, very close, is definitely a strength. So it depends on what the message is. So what I'm talking about here is somewhere where there is a narrative element to beating up on the monster, but that particular one is a feedback one. So when you're talking feedback, I'd say repetition can be a very good thing. Next to you.
Do you think that technologies like Fmod could be used to improve melodic background music, or is it purely for ambient sounds?
No, I'm actually putting together a submission at the moment. All right, Fmod as it currently stands has not quite got the tools that I want for doing melodic stuff. They're working on a new version, which I'm basically helping them with at the moment. I'm hoping that by the time they finish this new version, and I'm actually hoping to do a talk at GDC about this, that I will be able to write you a fully melodic piece of music that has all the sorts of character of a Star Wars film score that can chop and change on a beat depending on what you're doing, where you're going, stuff like that. So the technology is currently under production to do that. And this is where you start to get into things of like, unless you actually need to have actual recordings of real instruments, I would actually say that I could do you a fully melodic, I could do you an entire score in generative music where you've got melodic passages, you've got ambient passages, you've got, full-on rhythmic stuff, etc. And it will change as it needs to depending on what you're doing. So your character, if he's walking, you'll get one type of thing. As soon as you break into a run, perhaps the tempo increases. If you dive into the water, the tempo doesn't change, but perhaps certain melodic stuff changes, etc. So the technology is on the way to do that, and I'm already actually working on how to do that. Any other questions? Yes?
What is the current memory availability on the current stuff like phone on most smartphones?
It's completely variable because smartphones basically just use up, they've all just got effectively flash memory. So I just worked on a game recently, and I didn't actually notice it until the other day. I worked on a game a while back that was released on iPhone and iPad. That's a free download, and then they make money through in-game payments. That game is 150 meg download. It's massive. So you're not going to download that on your phone while you're waiting at the bus stop. And I think for that one, I used about 10 meg worth of memory for sound. Now, I've worked on Xbox games where I've had less memory than that. So what it then becomes is an argument. It becomes a sort of a tactical decision of how big do we want our game to be overall, because we want people to be able to download at the bus stop. And so people say generally, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, developers, I'd say that generally people want to keep it under 10 or 20 meg for the whole game if you want it to be a bus stop downloady thing. More than that? 20 meg, there you go, 20 meg. So there, if somebody's working on a game that's 20 meg, I'm pretty much guessing that my allocation for sound is going to be pretty small.
What features from sound mixing engines do you find lacking and you'd like to have as a sound designer?
We kind of don't have time for that. Well, one of the reasons why I actually teach with FMod as well, and I actually teach at RMIT, and one of the things that I said to some of my students the other day, they were kind of like, why are you teaching us FMod? Like we're doing websites and stuff. And I said, I'm teaching you FMod because FMod is not a linear editor. It doesn't work like Pro Tools. It doesn't work like Logic or Ableton or GarageBand. It's non-linear. And what this actually does is, a lot of my students are like, I can't work out how to do this. I'm like, that's exactly why I'm getting you to do it in FMod. Because they're used to just laying stuff out and the time moves across, etc. You can produce the same effects in FMod, but you have to look at it in a different way. And so what I'm doing is, and I kind of hate the cliche, but I'm sort of forcing people to think outside the box. Now, I've been using FMod for 10 years, and it was only through looking at FMod and going, well, I can't do this the way I want to, and I had to try something else. And then I went, holy crap, I can actually do this so it's different every time and it generates in real time. Wow. And this is what the talk, I think the talk in the other room was talking about, some of the talks here are talking about, of the whole idea of innovating and stuff like that. If I stick you in a room and I say, draw me a picture, and I put a piece of paper on the ground and a pencil, most people will pick up the pencil and draw a picture on the piece of paper. But I've not defined that you have to do it that way. It's just that we're trained to do it that way. And I think this is one of the things that, from the point of view of the game industry, this is why I say that if film and television are going in that direction, go in that direction. That's already been done. Why are we copying what film and television have done like some sort of insecure little brother or sister? The capabilities of what we can do with game development and game technology is going to, in 50 years' time, or even less than that, in 10, 20 years' time, is going to make linear film and television kind of look really stale and boring. In the same way as if you ask a lot of young people, would they prefer to watch a film or read a book? And I'm not saying that books are bad, and I'm not saying that films are bad at all. Literature and books are fantastic. So is film and television, but we are not them. Let's stop trying to be them, and let's look at things in a different way and go and tell our stories in a different manner. And I guess that's sort of one of those things about what do I want out of the next generation of sound things? I want stuff that I don't even know that I want yet. I want somebody to go, here's a whole bunch of features, and me look at it and going, wow, I didn't expect that. What can I do with that? Feel free to tell me to shut up at any point. If there's any more questions,
I'm going to tell you to shut up, but I will ask you to wrap up.
Okay. Well, unless there's any more questions, and if there are, all right, I might take one more question, but if there are any other questions, you can grab me outside. Last question, up the back there.
If people want to be inspired by what sound can achieve, what would you recommend that they go out and look at, games or media?
All right, games-wise, from a point of view of a musical score supporting narrative, and I've actually analysed this, and I actually probably should write about it because I've done it with my students. There's a couple of scenes in BioShock 2 which are stunning, and the music suits what's going on in the narrative so well. It's just staggering. It's really, really good. One of the other ones is you look at what is essentially a puzzle game, and these guys made what is essentially a puzzle game. And in most companies would have made this puzzle game and gone, hey, look, we've got this really cool puzzle game, off you go and play it. Valve don't work that way. Valve took what was basically a really good puzzle game and added one of the best stories and well-told stories when they made Portal 2. The story could be ripped off and put on a radio play, and the game as a puzzle game could be played by itself. The two are melded together in such a way that you want to go into the next room. You want to know what's going on next. And I was just about to say something, but I'm not going to give a spoiler away, because if you haven't played this game, I don't want to spoil it for you, because it is fantastic. Right down to the fact that, and this is one thing from the first Portal, and if you haven't played the first Portal, this is a spoiler and tough. The fact that the gun turrets aren't these giant, massive kaboom, kaboom. They're these little things that kind of look like they were designed by the same guy who designed the iPhone. And they come out and go, I'm sorry. And they apologize to you while they're gunning you down. I mean, there's more character in that little gun turret than there is in the entire franchise of Duke Nukem characters. I mean, seriously. And it's just, and when I played it, and again, this is going to be really hard without doing a thing. For those of you who've played it, you know what I'm talking about, but I won't give away the thing. There's one particular point where you, in Portal 2, where you interact with one of these gun turrets, and it says something different. And I nearly fell off my chair. Because it's like, oh, there's a gun turret, I'll just move it out of the way. And it said something else. I'm like, what? And like the whole game just went like to 11 for me. It was just incredible. From that point on, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it was incredible. And in fact, it was something when I went back and played the extensions for Half-Life 2 recently in the expanded episodes. I'm pretty sure there was a design somewhere for a gun turret on a wall somewhere that looked like the ones out of Portal. I'm like, oh, cool. I care about an inanimate object because it has character. All right, so anyway, if you want to ask any more questions, ambush me outside. All right, other than that, thank you very, very much.